The King of New York is back to reclaim the city that he built.
Donald Trump didn't, of course, build New York City, but in the self-described world's most famous arena of Madison Square Garden, that's certainly the tale he wanted to tell. That he was back in his righteous home. Only this time he brought the MAGA circus with him. But if the aim was to endear himself to his native New Yorkers, the opening act sure didn't get the memo.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico is, in fact, an American territory, which makes them, by the way, a critical American voting bloc. Racist slur number one, but it got darker and more dystopian from there.
The whole party, a bunch of degenerates.
Kamala Harris, she is the Antichrist. Her and her pimp handlers will destroy our country. We need to slaughter this other people.
Then came the main act himself. They almost managed a kiss. But did Trump manage to rise above the X-rated sideshow? As the New Yorkers like to say, forget about it.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out, get out. You're fired.
The aim was to paint this as the pinnacle of Trump's comeback. But critics drew a very different parallel with a Nazi rally that was held in this very venue in 1939. Only this was the here and now.
November 5th, 2024, 9 days from now, will be Liberation Day in America. It's going to be Liberation Day. On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. Going to get the criminals out. Going to kick them the hell out of our country as fast as possible.
Outside, the assembled MAGA faithful were full of pride.
Gee, I've been a lifelong New Yorker, lifelong Republican, and I have never been able to confidently wear my MAGA hat in the street until this rally today.
And we saw the economy under Trump, we saw the economy under Kamala. Which one was better?
Well, he was over 2 hours late, and we had the standard mix of campaign themes, the economy and immigration, and a fair bit of freewheeling, which may explain why hundreds of Donald Trump fans are leaving early. How was it?
Incredible, amazing. It was electrifying. The place, everybody was on fire.
You know, there could be a red wave coming through. You never know. We could be another swing state.
She surely knows that Democratic New York would never vote for Donald Trump. Harris is 15 points ahead here, and she, by chance, was visiting a Puerto Rican restaurant yesterday in Philadelphia as Trump's anti-immigrant barrage was underway. Today, as she was en route to the swing state of Michigan, Harris said Puerto Rican voters would support her and reject what she called Trump's nonsense in New York.
They want a president of the United States who's about uplifting the people and not berating, not calling America a garbage can.
Joe Biden popped up too this morning, doing his Democratic duty by voting in Delaware, one of the closing acts of his political career.
It's up to you.
The question is whether Donald Trump's big New York finale will be one of the closing acts of his.
Siobhan Kennedy reporting. Well, let's get some reaction to the Madison Square Garden rally from Albert Eisenberg, Republican political strategist and a writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer in the city. Welcome to the program, Albert. That was a hate rally, wasn't it, last night?
I think that a lot of the people in attendance who are increasingly diverse on the Republican side, the Republican Party is getting more diverse, will continue to get more diverse this election, would protest that.
But there's some very off-color jokes.
Yeah, there were.
Against Latinos, against African Americans, against Jews. I mean, just off-color, unacceptable language.
Yeah, but it's funny because there's always media uproar when it comes from the right, but I haven't been asked any questions about the Hamas rhetoric, pro-Hezbollah rhetoric on college campuses. And Kamala
But
really
that's
hasn't
another
either.
issue. But
as a Jewish person, it's actually incredibly important how you frame
I'm sure
the discussion.
it is, but none of those students are running for the presidency. And
no, but they're supporting the Democratic Party. And
but hang on, this is a presidential candidate who's been president, running for office. This is his final pitch.
So the vast majority,
and he opens the gates to some very offensive language.
So the vast majority of voters are not going to be voting based on an off-color joke about Puerto Rico, which was off-color, not good. They should have vetted that comedian, and they should have had him on.
And they did apologize, but they sort of distanced themselves. Is that because Puerto Rican voters matter, especially in this state?
Absolutely, and Latino voters are shifting Republican. So despite a lot of the uproar and sort of the upper educated, people who consume a lot of media, most voters are pocketbook voters. They have not liked what they've seen on affordability. They've not liked what they've seen on the border from the Biden-Harris administration. It's increasingly economically impossible for working class people to get by. And foreign policy-wise, the world's become a lot less stable under Biden-Harris. So my point is just, there were some off-color jokes. Trump's an off-color guy. But people are going to be voting based on the issues.
And off-color is a very mild way of describing this. I wonder if they only sort of apologized about the Puerto Rican stuff because it matters electorally, and the rest is just fine. It's offensive.
That's politics. You put your finger in the air and decide. I mean, politicians do all sorts of things because they think it'll matter or not.
Does it set the right tone for this country? I mean, at the end of the day, it's one country. Hopefully someone's going to try and unite it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say allowing Putin to march into Ukraine and pulling out of Afghanistan and leaving billions of dollars of military kit actually set a much worse tone than an inappropriate rally. And I hope you're hearing me on that, because that really matters.
And for your listeners at home, it matters in Europe.
Yeah, but they need to understand, the viewers at home need to understand, there are regular people in this country that are not able to afford living
allowing
under Biden and Harris.
Putin to move into Ukraine. Donald Trump is the guy who wants to cut and run when it comes to Ukraine.
I think that's massive speculation, but we'll see, because I think Trump's going to win. So we'll have to see how it goes. I think the world's going to be more safe under the Trump administration. And I think a lot of people agree with me on that.
On that point of Trump winning, if he doesn't win, do you think he's still going to declare victory, or is he going to concede?
Oh, man, all this speculation. I don't know whether Kamala is going to. I mean, she's out there calling him a Nazi. So that's all very heated rhetoric, and I'm genuinely not trying to be defensive because I'm a Republican commentator.
Do you think he should concede?
I'm telling you how I feel.
But
I think both sides should concede if it's unfairly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
But he didn't concede last time around. So
I thought it was inappropriate. And yet you see, and this is something that I've talked to some of the British folks here about, you see Trump is probably the favorite to win this election, and it's because the Americans have lived for 4 years under Biden-Harris, and they don't like what they see.
But just finally, briefly, undermining trust in the institutions in the process of democracy is not helpful, is it?
Yeah, I mean,
it's dangerous.
I think the institutions have undermined themselves in a lot of ways. I think Hillary and the Democrats undermined themselves with the Russiagate scandal, which might not have been covered as much in the UK, but was seriously undermining the legitimacy.
But she never said the election was stolen from me.
She's called him an illegitimate president infinity times.
She didn't say the election was stolen. It's slightly different, isn't it?
He went too far. I'm not here to defend January 6th. I will never do that.
Right.
I'm telling you that most people can't afford to vote based off of off-color jokes, something that happened, and there's been a lot of bad things that have happened, including U.S. people who have been murdered abroad due to the Biden policies.
Got to leave it there. Albert Eisenberg, thank you very much for coming to the program. Now, one of the things that makes U.S. elections so intriguing and unpredictable is the somewhat peculiar system of the Electoral College. It means that the winner of the popular vote doesn't always come out on top, and tiny numbers of ballots can make all the difference.
You're not trying to get the most number of votes, it's all about winning the most votes in the Electoral College. So whichever candidate gets the majority of the 538 electors wins the White House. The magic number to reach is 270. Now, the way it works is that each state is given a number of electors based on the number of congressional districts they have, plus their 2 senators. California, for example, has the highest population, just under 40 million people, so it gets to send the most representatives to Washington. That means California gets 54 Electoral College votes, the highest in the country. On the other hand, the 6 states with the smallest populations, along with the District of Columbia, get the minimum of 3 electoral votes. And most states have a winner-takes-all system, giving all their Electoral College votes to the winning candidate. The election campaign is fought most fiercely in 7 key swing states that will determine who wins the White House. One of the most important, and won by Joe Biden in 2020, is Pennsylvania, where Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are battling to secure those vital 19 Electoral College votes.
Well, I hope that was clear. We spent the last couple of days taking the temperature here in the swingiest of swing states of Pennsylvania.
Hey, Philly! Oh, I love this city. I just love this city of brotherly love.
Pennsylvania, we love Pennsylvania. Here in Pennsylvania with the workers.
Both candidates have been lavishing love, money and time on this state with compulsive obsession. Dozens of visits between them, hundreds of millions of dollars spent. We travel the roads that both sides believe will lead to the White House. And as the few undecided finally make up their mind and the committed make it to the polls, America feels like the squirrel on the high wire, terrified by the consequences of a zero-sum election where one side's victory is the other side's disaster. First stop, rural Newport, Trumpland. We don't get Mr. Nice Guy himself, but the next best thing, his would-be daughter-in-law Kimberly.
Hello.
Partner of Donald Jr., former Fox TV host and trusted Trump whisperer.
We are cautiously optimistic.
It's all about Pennsylvania.
Fabulous. Everything's going to come down, I think, to Pennsylvania.
How do you account for the fact that just about everyone who worked for Donald Trump in the first administration can't stand him?
I don't know
One of
about
his former
that.
chief of staff said he behaved like a fascist.
Well, I don't know. What I'll tell you is there's a lot of people that didn't do their job well, and then, sour grapes. What we're going to do after November 5th when we win is have some of the smartest, most talented, brightest people come into the administration with the help of God and really do something to make a difference in this country, to lift up all Americans.
What was that?
But there's no such thing as all Americans in a tribally divided America.
He knows us. He's for us. He wants to make the country great again. And he can. He'll make it. He'll get us jobs. He'll bring the prices down. And, we'll be able to afford groceries and gas, the things that we need.
So life was better when he was in office?
Absolutely.
If Kamala Harris wins this election, what would that mean for you and for America?
Well, for America, it would probably be the most horrible thing that could have happened. And indeed, for us, it would be the same thing.
What are you most upset about?
Jeez.
Too much to choose from.
Yeah, somewhere between, the border doesn't affect me here in Perry County so much,
Yeah.
but I don't like how it affects everyone else.
Who represents your interests more? The billionaire from Fifth Avenue or the prosecutor from Southern California?
The billionaire from Fifth Avenue.
Really?
He lived in the American dream. We're all going to be that rich one day and have that type of lifestyle. So good for him.
Not all bikers travel the same road. In Philly, we meet Black Bikers Vote. Their mission, to get black men especially to register for the ballot. Their concern is less the cost of living and more the future of the republic itself.
So if Trump were to become president, what would happen to
happen
you
to
and
me?
your country? Yeah.
This won't be my country anymore. I would absolutely get ready to leave this country.
Really?
Yes.
Where would you go?
Back to Africa.
Uh-huh.
I'm already ready, packed and ready to go. If Kamala does not win this election, I'm no longer going to be here. I'm looking for ways to leave America.
I don't put anything past anybody in this country now. Because you can almost make that argument if he loses, there might be, extreme violence. There was violence 4 years ago when he lost the election. He never conceded that he lost the election. And, we've been kind of silently relitigating the Civil War since 1865.
But there will be some black men, maybe not many, who end up voting for him. What would you say to them directly?
Know who you are. Remember who you are.
Same message at this gathering. Get out the vote for Kamala Harris. First up, the formidable mayor of Philly.
The path to the White House runs straight through the keystone state of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And here past some familiar faces. One thing the Democrats don't lack is star power, unleashed.
And may I introduce Mr. Robert De Niro. Thanks, Leo. I just want to start. It makes me so angry that we're here talking about a like Donald Trump.
Mr. De Niro, what happens if she doesn't win?
Good question.
And one they would rather not have to answer. This week, there's arguably no one more powerful in America, maybe even on Earth, than an undecided voter of Pennsylvania. We found one in his isolated homestead on the banks of the Susquehanna River, and his name is Bill.
We don't have a good candidate to vote for, whether it's Democratic or Republican. We just have a bad choice.
But you're going to vote for one of them?
Well, if I don't have a right to complain, do I? So I'm going to vote for one of them, but I don't know which.
Pennsylvania is the cradle of American democracy, but if the doomsayers on both sides are right, it could also become its shallow grave.
Well, I'm now joined by Lindy Lee, a top Democratic fundraiser and strategist here on the roof in Philadelphia. Thanks for coming on the program. I mean, your reaction, first of all, to this rally last night?
Well, I mean, where do we even start? They called, I'm not even sure what I'm allowed to say on air, frankly, so I'll try to be as circumspect as possible.
We don't want to repeat any of the off-color jokes. Yeah.
Right. Well, Trump had some fanciful words to describe Kamala Harris. I'll just leave it there. I think I can say devil. And then they described Puerto Rico as a floating pile of garbage. And this is a U.S. territory. These are Americans.
Yeah. And a lot of them are living here.
Exactly. Not only everywhere, you know, and Latinos are such a growing voting demographic. Yeah. For him to offend them like this 8 days from the election is a catastrophic mistake. And that resulted in endorsement from Bad Bunny, Jennifer Lopez, Ricky Martin, these very well-respected Latinos for Harris.
But one thing I've always found extraordinary is that however offensive the language is from the Trump campaign, and a lot of people, you know, get offended by this stuff, actually it doesn't make that much of a difference when it comes to votes. And it's surprising how thick-skinned so many people are with this language, including perhaps Latinos.
That's a really good point, but this is offensive to the core. This is about their self-esteem. If someone insulted like me like that, I would, you know, just to maintain my self-respect, I would not be voting for him. And not only that, he's calling Americans the enemy within, and he threatens to deploy the military against U.S. citizens. This is just like beyond the pale.
But I've spoken to so many Latinos in this state and elsewhere who say, okay, we don't like the language he uses, you know, I wouldn't invite him around for dinner, but I totally agree with him when it comes to the economy, and Kamala Harris just hasn't come up with a convincing message.
He's the one proposing an across-the-board tariff that would raise consumer bills, the price of consumer goods by thousands of dollars every single year. He's the one who has promised to extend the multi-trillion-dollar tax cut for billionaires and corporations, leaving everyday Americans out in the dark. She's the one who promised 3 million housing units by the end of her term, who promised an extension of the child tax credit. His party let that expire, which plunged millions of American kids back into poverty. So on the policy front, it's not even a contest.
Your speciality is fundraising, and your party's done an incredible job. You've raised much more money.
I just co-hosted Tim Walz here down the street.
And you know, your party's raised much more money than Donald Trump has. I read somewhere 3 times as much. How come? You know, when it comes to the money, when you're far ahead, you've got a former prosecutor against a convicted felon, and you're at 50-50. How's that possible?
There are several reasons. There are 3 fundamental forces that she's working against. Number 1 would be immigration. A lot of migrants did come in during the first half of the Biden administration. Number 2 would be inflation. It's a very anti-incumbent environment. And not just here in the United States, globally. You see that in Canada, Japan, even Europe. You see that everywhere. People are just upset. And inflation is a global phenomenon and just not just American. Number 3 is the fact that Biden waited so long to drop out. So she only had one. It was a total mistake, and I love President Biden. I love you, President Biden. But it was just a mistake because she only has 100 days to introduce herself.
Lindy Lee, got to leave it there. Thank you very much
indeed. Thank you so much.